I have met so many people in my life, people who work hard, who are kind, who have dreams, who have hopes, yet still live a life smaller than their true potential. Not because they are incapable, not because they lack opportunities, but because they have never stopped long enough to ask themselves a question that seems simple, yet determines their entire destiny. Why am I still here when I know I could be somewhere better? Some say the timing isn't right. Some say they're busy. Some blame age, family, environment, or what they call circumstances. But I learned one thing that changed my whole life since the years I spent poor, selling door to door. The world isn't holding you back. You are holding you back. And then there are nights when you lie down, stare at the ceiling, and ask yourself, why am I so tired yet getting nowhere? Why do I start things only to abandon them? Why do other people move forward while I stay still? I know that feeling, because I was there too. Life is like a wide field, but many people stand at the edge, only watching, only thinking, only wishing, without planting a single seed. Then they say luck doesn't come to them. But how can there be a harvest if there was never a season of sowing? And here is the part you need to hear with your whole heart. There is one principle, one single principle, that if you understand and live by it, every door will open. Not at the beginning of this video, not in the middle, but near the end, where I will tell you what took me from a lost young man to a completely different person. If you've ever felt you were born to be more than this, if you know your life hasn't been lived anywhere near its true scale, then stay with me, because this journey begins with you. Principle 1, change the inside before life changes the outside. I remember clearly the early years when I was working door-to-door sales, knocking on each door with an old briefcase in hand and a heart full of hope but heavy with disappointment. I looked at successful people and asked myself, why do they have that kind of life and I don't? I thought it was because they were luckier. I assumed they started better. I believed they knew someone had connections, support, a foundation. But then one day, in silence, I had to face myself, and I realized something bitter but painfully true. My life didn't change because I didn't change. Not society, not the times, not the economy, not my family, not age, but me, the only person I could control, stayed the same. A poor person with a poor person's mindset will remain poor, even if you put him in a wealthy home. And someone with a rich mindset, a mindset of value, discipline, and responsibility will find their way upward even if they start with nothing. I used to think that if I had more money, more opportunities, more time, my life would be different. But then I learned, nothing in life changes until I change. Life is like a vast field. Everyone is given a piece of land. But some plant good seeds, some let the soil dry out, some wait for rain, some blame the wind, some look at the field next door and think that soil is richer. But the truth is, any soil can bloom if the one who plants is willing to change. I remember the day I met my first mentor. He didn't give me money, he didn't give me opportunities, he didn't introduce me to anyone. He just said one sentence, Jim, if you want more, you must become more. That sentence changed everything. Not do more, but become more. Some people do a lot, stay busy their whole lives, yet stay the same, because they work as their old self, with old habits, old thoughts, old beliefs. You can change your job. You can change where you live. You can change your friends. You can change your schedule. But if you don't change yourself, you'll meet the exact same results just in a different setting. And that's why the question you need to ask is not, how do I get more money? But what kind of person must I become to deserve what I want? There is no harvest without a sower. No flowers bloom if the seeds stay in the bag. No new tomorrow arrives if you walk into it as the old you. Look at yourself. What habits are pulling you down? What beliefs are limiting you? Are you afraid of change because you're afraid of becoming someone else? Most people don't lack ability. They lack the courage to change inside. Because inner change is invisible. No one claps. No one praises, no one witnesses it, but it more than anything else determines the rest of your life. And here is the core sentence you must write down, stick on the wall, and remind yourself of every day. Your life only expands when you expand. Not quickly, not loudly, not for display, but quietly, deeply. And when you truly change inside, the outside world can no longer treat you the same. And then, when you are ready to become a bigger version of yourself, you will need the next thing. Clarity about the destination of your life. Because change only matters when it leads you somewhere you truly want to go. Principle 2, clarity about the destination of your life, because no wind favors a ship without a direction. There was a period I will never forget when I worked harder than ever, yet my life still didn't move forward. I woke up early, slept late, ran everywhere, took extra jobs, tried to earn every dollar, but at the end of the month, the end of the year, the end of the road, I was still in the same place. I thought I lacked effort, but the truth was, I lacked direction, because without direction, effort turns into exhaustion. I remember one cold night, my mentor looked at me and asked, "Jim, where are you going?" I answered with the same phrases many people use today. I want to be better. I want to improve. I want to change. I want to succeed. My mentor smiled and said, "That's not a destination. That's just a feeling." And then he said a sentence I've carried with me my whole life. A destination must have shape, size, time, and reason. That sentence struck me like lightning on a clear day. That's when I realized I didn't lack dreams. I lacked clarity of my dreams. Some people spend their whole life walking, but never toward anything specific. Some run fast, but in circles. Some climb very high only to find their ladder leaning against the wrong wall. And here's the pain no one teaches you to face. Nothing is more exhausting than effort that leads nowhere. Life is like a sail on the sea. The wind can change. The waves can rise. The sky can darken. But if the boat has a compass, it will always find the way. Without a compass, even favorable winds are useless. I've met hundreds, thousands of people across decades of speaking, and I discovered something sad. Most people don't fail due to lack of ability. They fail because they don't know what they're aiming for. Ask yourself, who do you want to become in 5 years? What does your life look like? If you can't answer, life will answer for you. And that answer is rarely beautiful. I once met a man in Denver. He worked hard, never took a day off, but at 55, he looked back and told me, "I spent my whole life climbing a hill, only to find out it wasn't the hill I wanted." That moment made me understand one truth. Time doesn't shape your life, the direction of that time does. And then I began to write. A small notebook, rough pages, awkward sentences at first. But line by line, page by page, night by night, my life began to take shape. I wrote what I wanted, what I didn't want, what I was willing to trade, what I would never trade, what made me alive, what made me shine, what made me stand tall in life. And then one day I understood. Goals don't just give you a destination. Goals create the person worthy of that destination. If you want to become more, you must pursue something that makes you grow. If you want to live higher, you must set goals higher than who you are today. And here is the core sentence of this principle, the one you must hold onto. It's not how fast you go, but where you're going. Pause for a moment. Take a deep breath and ask yourself one question powerful enough to change the direction of your entire life. Am I going where I truly want to go? If the answer is no, then congratulations. Because awareness is the beginning of change. And when you are clear about your destination, a bigger challenge awaits you. How do you maintain emotional endurance on a long journey? Because the right path is always longer than you think. And emotions are where most people fall. Principle 3, emotional endurance. Where people fall or rise, there is a truth few people talk about. Success or failure isn't decided by knowledge, circumstances, or starting points, but by the heart's ability to endure when life tests you. I've seen people more talented than me, smarter than me, with better opportunities than me, but they stopped when their emotions dipped. They quit at the exact moment life was about to change color. I remember a young man I once worked with. He had big dreams, good ability, and clear ambition. But just one hard month, a few criticisms, one failure, he withdrew. And one day he said, "Maybe I'm not meant for this." And that was the moment I understood. It's not failure that kills dreams. It's emotions that aren't strong enough to continue. Because the journey to change your life is not a smooth road. It is like climbing a long hill where the wind blows against you, where mud sticks to your feet, where your body gets tired first, but your spirit gets tired faster. And if you don't train emotional endurance, you'll turn back, even when the peak is just a few steps away. I was like that too. There were nights I asked myself, why am I trying but seeing no results? Why do others move forward while I stand still? Why is everything so slow? And then I understood something. Emotions are the winter of life. If you don't learn to walk through them, you will never see spring. My mentor once told me a story about bamboo. For the first several years, it barely grows at all. No one sees any change. No one believes it will become anything. but beneath the ground, its roots spread wide, deep, strong, quietly preparing. And then in just one season, it shoots higher than anyone expected. People are the same. There are years when you don't feel yourself progressing. But if you persist, if you endure, if you hold your heart steady, there will come a day you rise like bamboo after the rain. And here is the question you must ask with absolute honesty. Am I quitting because I'm emotionally tired or because I truly no longer want it? Because most people don't lose due to lack of ability, but because of one criticism, one disappointment, one down week, 1 month without results, one long winter. But winter is not where you fall. Winter is where you grow stronger. And here is the core sentence of this principle. You can't control the wind, but you can control how you hold the sail. When emotions are low, rest, but don't quit. When doubt arrives, slow down, but don't turn back. When the world is silent, remember the roots are growing deeper. No one sees your silent efforts until the day they bloom. And then, when you have emotional endurance, you can do what most people cannot. Build the small habits that transform your entire life. Because emotions hold you back, but habits take you far. Principle 4. Small habits create big turning points. After you learn how to maintain emotional endurance, there's one thing that will decide whether you move forward or return to the starting line: the small habits you repeat every day. Not the big, loud, spectacular changes, but the tiny things, quiet yet steady as breathing. I used to think success came from big moments, turning points, special opportunities, bold decisions. But then I realized a truth that completely changed the way I live. Your life is shaped by what you do every day, not by what you do occasionally. I remember the first time I heard my mentor say that. I reacted just like everyone else. How could a single page of journaling each night change anything? What difference could 15 minutes of reading make? How helpful could one sincere thank you be? But then he said, Jim, 1 drop of water is nothing, but 1 drop falling on the same spot every day can drill through rock. And that was when I understood it's not the size of the action that determines the result, but the frequency and consistency. Look at the people around you. A person doesn't gain weight because of 1 meal. A person doesn't become poor because of 1 expense. A person doesn't fall behind because of 1 lazy day. It's because of a series of small choices repeated for too long. And the opposite is true. The more confident person, the wiser person, the more financially stable person, the person with a better life, doesn't get there by magic, but by small habits accumulated in silence. I remember a story about a man I once met at a seminar. He said that for 30 years he couldn't finish a single book. Then one day he decided to read just 1 page each night, 1 page no more. And within a year, he finished 10 books, the second year 20, and his life changed direction. Not because he read fast, but because he read consistently. Life is like a wide field. A small seed but planted every day will fill a whole season. A big seed but planted only once won't create a harvest. And here's what very few people admit. Small habits are easy to do but also easy not to do. Easy to skip, easy to delay, easy to tell yourself, tomorrow is fine. Easy to forget that the future is built from today. So ask yourself slowly, deeply, what seeds are you planting into your life each day? 1 page of reading or an hour of mindless scrolling? 1 step forward or 1 excuse? 1 action or 1, I'll do it later? Because you don't harvest what you wish for. You harvest what you habitually do. And here's the key sentence of this principle, the sentence you must keep as your compass. Success is just a few small disciplines repeated every day. Failure is just a few small errors repeated for too long. You don't need to change your whole life. Just change 1 thing, but do it every day. Then 1 more thing, then another, in silence, in discipline, in persistence that no one sees. Then there will come a time when people say you're lucky, but you will know it wasn't luck. It was habits being rewarded. And when those small habits begin to build momentum, when the flywheel of your life begins to turn, when small changes begin creating big shifts, you will step into another principle, the principle that deepens the entire journey. Learn like a season of sowing, because habits help you go far, but learning helps you go in the right direction. Principle 5, learn like a season of sowing because wisdom is what grows when shared. When small habits begin building momentum in your life, there will come a moment when you realize that to go farther, you need something deeper. You need to sow the seeds of wisdom. Because life does not reward the merely hardworking life, rewards those who learn, understand, observe, and harvest from their own experiences and the experiences of others. I still remember the first mentor who told me something that changed my entire approach to life. Jim, learning is the season of sowing, and no one has a harvest if they skip the sowing season. When I was young, I thought all I needed was to do and results would follow. But then I witnessed many people work their whole lives and go nowhere, not because they were lazy, but because they didn't learn from their own journey. They repeated the same mistakes. They walked the same circles. They faced the same disappointments. Because they didn't sow new seeds, they just plowed the same old soil. Learning is not sitting in a classroom, not collecting degrees, not memorizing what others say. Learning is becoming deeper. I remember the years I started reading, not for hours, not piles of books, just a few pages each night. But page by page, line by line, note by note, I felt my mind opening like a field thawing after winter. Then I learned to journal, not to show off, not to archive, but to see myself clearly, because there are things you don't see until you write them down. I wrote about what I did right. I wrote about what I did wrong. I wrote about lessons from failure. I wrote about the moments I almost quit. And I discovered life becomes wise when we take the time to record it, not when we simply pass through it. Then I learned from others, from mentors, from real life stories, from failures I didn't have to pay the price to experience. I joined groups, gatherings, discussions where experiences were shared like precious seeds. And I realized a truth: learning from success helps you move forward, but learning from failure keeps you from going backward. Life is like a wide field. Some seeds sprout fast, some sleep underground for years. Some need rain, some need sun, some need storms. But they all have one thing in common: only seeds that are sown have a chance to become a harvest. So ask yourself, what are you sowing into your mind each day? Does what you listen to nourish you or drain you? Does what you read expand you or distract you? Do the people you meet lift you up or pull you down? Because the mind is the most fertile land you own. And here is the key sentence of this principle: you cannot have a big life if your mind is still small. You don't need to become a scholar. You don't need to become a genius. You don't need to understand everything. You just need one page of reading, one line of notes, one lesson learned, one good conversation. Repeat it every day, like seasons, like sowing, like tending the soil. And then, when your mind is filled with seeds of wisdom, you will be ready for the next stage, where what you learn must be turned into results. Act like the harvest season, because sowing without harvesting is waste. But harvesting without sowing is illusion. Principle 6. Act like the harvest season, because only those who step into the field have a harvest. When you have sown wisdom, built small habits, and maintained emotional endurance, there comes the decisive stage: action. Because without action, everything you know remains in your head, and your life stays exactly where it is. I have met many intelligent, deep, knowledgeable people, yet their lives never changed. Not because they lacked knowledge, but because they never took that knowledge into the field and planted it in real life. My first mentor once said, "No harvest happens in the library." He didn't mean you shouldn't learn. He meant learning must turn into steps. I remember clearly when I realized that. I had pages of notes, beautiful philosophies, inspiring lessons, yet my finances were poor, my opportunities were few, my life still struggled. And then one day, I had to face the truth. I was a person who understood, but not a person who acted. Life is like a field. You can stand at the edge and talk about crops. You can analyze soil, measure wind, observe clouds. You can predict rain, categorize seeds. But only one thing creates a harvest: stepping into the field. And action has a rule many people dislike. It's slow at first. It doesn't give immediate results. It requires patience. It needs sweat before sweetness. A farmer doesn't sow today and harvest tomorrow. A successful person doesn't act once and enjoy results forever. Action must be consistent, timely aligned. I once met a woman at a seminar. She said she wanted to change her life, have a better income, live more freely. I asked her, "What did you do yesterday?" She was silent. I asked again, "What did you do last week?" She looked down. Then I asked the final question, "Do you take action or do you only hope?" She broke down in tears. Not because she was criticized, but because it was the first time she truly saw herself. Many people don't lack dreams. Many don't lack goals. Many don't lack knowledge. They just lack starting. And once they start, they lack the second thing, staying with it. One day of work doesn't change a life. 1 week doesn't produce results. 1 month is only a warm-up. Action is like tending a field. Some days are sunny. Some days are rainy. Some days the soil cracks. Some days the wind is harsh. But farmers don't quit because of weather. You may be tired. You may slow down. You may need rest. But you must not leave the field. And here's the key sentence of this principle. Results don't come from strong action, but from enduring action. Quote, 1 step a day. 1 task you can do. 1 small but real progress. Then one day, people will look at you and say, you changed suddenly. But you will know it wasn't sudden. It was. The mornings you pushed a bit more. The nights you didn't give up. The tired days you still moved forward. The moments no one saw, but you kept going. And then, when you act long enough, consistently enough, deeply enough, another factor will determine how fast you rise. Your environment and the people you walk with. Because even the best field can die if surrounded by weeds. Principle 7. Environment and the people you walk with, because no one climbs the mountain alone. There was a long time when I believed success was an individual journey. I thought that as long as I worked hard, as long as I was disciplined, as long as I was determined, I would get where I wanted to go. But the more I grew up, the deeper I went into life, the more I understood a truth my mentor repeated to me many times. No one succeeds alone. I looked back at the years when I was still struggling, and I discovered something I had never been willing to admit. I had been in an environment poor in mindset, even though I wasn't lacking people around me. They weren't bad. They weren't cruel. They didn't sabotage me. But they thought small, dreamed small, and lived small. They told me not to push myself too much. They told me I should be satisfied. They told me life is just like this. And then I realized you can't fly high if you're hanging on to people who are afraid of heights. I remember the story of an old friend. He had talent, ability, opportunity, but he spent his time with people who only liked to complain, blame, whine, talk about bad news, and tell stories of disappointment. And his mind shrank with every conversation. One day he said to me, I don't understand why I'm not moving forward. I looked straight into his eyes and said, because you're living in a room that's too low for your true height. Life is like a garden. Some plants need sun, some need shade, some need moist soil, some need dry air. But every plant dies if it's planted in the wrong environment. People are the same. You may have the potential of a great tree, but if you live among bushes, you will shrink yourself so you don't stand out from the crowd. And here is something few people dare to face. Environment determines expectations, and expectations determine your life. Ask yourself deeply and honestly, do the people around you talk about opportunities or talk about limitations? Do they talk about solutions or talk about problems? Do they lift you up or pull you down? Do they make you open up or make you close in? Do they make you want to become more or make you afraid of change? Because you can fight against the world for a while, but you cannot fight against the environment you soak in every day. I once joined small gatherings where people shared lessons, shared experiences, shared how they got through the winters of their lives. And I realized I was growing just by standing next to people who were also growing. Not because they taught me, but because they wouldn't let me dare to stand still. Here is the key sentence of this principle, the sentence you must carve into your heart. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and your life is the result of the environment you choose to stay in. If you want to fly, stay close to people who have opened their wings. If you want to think big, stay close to people who see far. If you want to be strong, stay close to people who stand firm. If you want to be free, stay close to people who aren't afraid of change. Because environment doesn't just create you, environment allows you to become yourself. And when you find the right environment, you will learn something deeper. Optimism is not hope, it is the strength to walk through the night. Because behind environment is a way of life, an inner light, a guiding lamp in gloomy days. Principle 8, optimism like a lamp in a windy night. Because your attitude decides how you go through the storms. When the environment has lifted you up, there will be a time when life puts you into another test, where you must face not the outside world, but the darkness inside yourself. Because there will be days when you do everything right, but the results still haven't shown up. There will be seasons when you have sown enough, cared enough, waited enough, but the sprouts haven't risen above the soil. And at that very moment, what keeps you going is not knowledge, not plans, not someone else's encouragement, but the optimism inside you. I remember a period when everything almost collapsed. I had changed myself. I was clear about my goals. I was persistent. I was learning. I was taking action. I had built a good environment. But the results still came slower than I hoped. And one evening, sitting alone, I asked myself, am I just fooling myself? That is the question anyone on the path of growth will face not once, but many times. And then my mentor said, Jim, optimism is not believing that everything will be easy. Optimism is believing that you will become strong enough to walk through the hardest part. Those words were like a small lamp, but the only light in a dark room. Life is like a night with wind. Sometimes the wind is gentle, sometimes it's strong, sometimes it blows so hard the flame almost goes out. But what I learned is, even a small light is still a light if you shield it with steady hand. I have seen many people fall not because they failed, but because they believed failure was the final stop. They forgot that night is just one part of the cycle. They forgot that the sun always returns. They forgot that silence does not mean nothing is moving. Ask yourself, have you ever thought you weren't moving forward just because you couldn't see the progress? Have you ever concluded too soon just because you ran out of patience? Have you ever put out your own lamp just because the night was too long? In truth, the greatest tree is not the one that grows the fastest, but the one that stands the longest. And here is the part almost no one tells you. Optimism is strength, not emotion. Optimism is a choice. Optimism is a discipline. Optimism is the decision to continue even while your heart still hurts. I remember a woman I met many years ago. She lost her job, lost her house, lost her life partner. But every morning she still made tea, opened the window, took a deep breath and said, today I will stand up one more time. And then she started over. Not rushed, not showing off, not in despair, just small steps, but in the direction of the light. A year later, her life changed. Not because of a miracle, but because of her attitude. If you see life as a field, then optimism is the sun that helps seeds sprout. If you see life as a mountain climb, then optimism is the breath that helps you take one more step. If you see life as a river, then optimism is the current that keeps you from getting stuck among the rocks. And here's the key sentence of this principle, the sentence you must keep as your own flame. It's not the light that shines when everything is easy, but the light that remains when the wind rises. And when you learn how to keep your light in the dark, you will understand something deeper. Life is not just about success, it is about a way of living. Because if you achieve everything but lose your peace, you have not truly succeeded. And that leads us to the next principle, a balanced lifestyle, because the goal is not to have more, but to become someone who lives more beautifully. Principle 9, a balanced lifestyle. When you have learned how to keep your light in the dark, a new realization will open up before you that life is not measured only by achievements, money, fame, or recognition. Life is measured by the quality of each moment you live, by the peace in your soul, by how deeply you can feel the beauty of the very journey you are on. There was a time I worked to the point of exhaustion, achieved a lot, earned more money than ever, but I wasn't happy. I missed family dinners. I missed laughter. I missed silent moments that nourish the spirit. And then my mentor asked, Jim, if success makes a person lose himself, is that still success? That question echoed in my mind for many years. I saw many people climb very high and then become lonely. I saw many people earn a lot and then feel empty. I saw many people stay busy but not truly live. They have a house but not a home. They have a schedule but not time. They have a bank account but not peace. And I understood. Success is not having everything. It is having enough of what truly matters. Life is like a table. It needs 4 steady legs: health, family and connections, healthy finances, joy, and inner peace. Missing one leg, the table wobbles. Missing 2 legs, it falls. I once met a wealthy businessman who looked tired and drained. He said to me, I spent 30 years building a career and 30 minutes realizing I had no one to share it with. Those words were like a wake-up bell. Balance is not dividing your time evenly. Balance is knowing what deserves your time. And then I learned to make time for stillness, walk slowly to reflect, enjoy tea without rushing, read not to finish, but to absorb, sit next to someone I love without needing to talk. I learned to live, not just exist. Because if you lose your youth to rushing, if you lose your health to striving, if you lose your family to chasing, if you lose yourself on the way up, then success is no longer a reward. It becomes the price you paid. Ask yourself deeply, slowly, what makes me feel at peace? What makes me feel grateful? What makes me feel alive? What do I not want to trade away? What is my sacred boundary? Because there is no big life if the soul does not expand. And here is the key sentence of this principle, the sentence you must keep as your compass. True success is living a life you don't need to escape from. Not only weekends are joyful, not only vacations are happy, not only old age is for enjoying life, but every day is worth living. And when you understand balance, when you stand firm, peaceful, bright, you will come to the final principle, the one that completes the entire journey. Become the person worthy of success finding you. Because success is not something you chase. Success is something attracted by the person you become. Principle 10. Become the person worthy of success finding you. When you have changed on the inside, when you are clear about your destination, when you have emotional endurance, when you have built small habits, when you have sown the seeds of learning, when you have acted consistently, when you have chosen an environment that lifts you up, and when you live in balance, a deepest realization will appear. Success is not something you chase. Success is something attracted by the person you become. I used to chase success. I ran after it like a man running across a foggy field, thinking that if I just ran faster, harder, more intensely, I would catch it. But the more I chased, the farther it seemed. The more I grabbed, the more it slipped away. And then my mentor said, Jim, don't pursue success. Become the kind of person that success cannot ignore. Those words completely reversed the direction of my life. I looked back. When I became more valuable, opportunities came to me. When I became more disciplined, results came to me. When I became clearer, the path came to me. When I became deeper, the right people came to me. Life is like a field. You don't pull the harvest closer to you. You become someone who sows enough so the harvest comes right on time. I remember a story about a young man. He wanted quick success, wanted attention, wanted recognition. He ran, pushed, forced, compared, envied, rushed, and then he burned out. One day, he asked an old farmer, how can I make the tree grow faster? The farmer replied, you can't pull a tree up with your hands to make it taller. You can only take better care of the soil. And that is the lesson many people only understand much later. You don't lift success up, you lift yourself up. Success comes to those who keep their word, those who are kind, those who are trustworthy, those who do their work thoroughly, those who don't quit halfway, those who respect time, those who cultivate real value. Success walks away from those who are impatient, those who want results but don't want to pay the price, those who want to harvest without sowing, those who want to enjoy without building, those who want shortcuts without growth. Ask yourself deeply, honestly, if success were a guest, would I be the kind of house it wants to stay in? Because opportunities don't come to people who beg for them. Opportunities come to people who are worthy to be entrusted with them. And here is the strongest key sentence of this principle, the sentence that crystallizes the entire journey. Success is not something you pursue. It is something you attract by the person you become. Become someone who thinks more deeply, someone who feels more delicately, someone who acts more consistently, someone who is more grateful, someone who lives more kindly, someone who faces themselves more courageously. Then life will change color, not loudly, not hastily, not showily, but quietly yet surely. And when you understand this principle with your whole heart, you will be ready to step into the final part of the journey, the part that connects everything you have heard, understood, felt, and seen in your own life. As this journey comes to its final moments, I want you to take a truly quiet pause to look back at yourself. Not with your eyes, but with your heart, where you know very clearly that you were born to become more than this, to live more fully than this, to step into a life wider than the life you've grown used to. Because everything you have heard today is not theory. It is a mirror for you to look into. It is a path for you to step onto. It is a reminder that you have the right to rewrite the rest of your life starting from today. You don't need a huge change, just one step, but in the right direction. Just one small habit, but repeated every day. Just one decision, but coming from the person you want to become. And then life will begin to open up like dawn after a long night. If there was any part of this video that made you pause, made you reflect, made you see yourself in it, leave in the comments. So I know you are still walking along, still growing, still climbing to the peak of your own life. And if you want to continue the journey of changing your life one awareness, one habit, one choice at a time, hit subscribe so you won't miss any upcoming video. Because every new video will be another brick in building the person you are becoming. If you want to spread this value to someone who needs a reminder, a belief, a flame, share this video with them. Who knows? It might be exactly what changes their life. And before we close, I want to repeat the quote that has guided me all my life and may guide you from today onward. Success is not something you pursue. Success is something you attract by the person you become. Jim Rohn,